Hey guys, Alex with Infotainment. Today we are going to be installing front parking sensors on our Ram 2500 heavy duty. There's four main components to this install. The first is going to be the two shrouds that go on either side. We're going to be using LED fog lights, but they do come also in a halogen fog light. The next part of the install is going to be the lower valance, which has two parking sensors, so that's 6 total. And the last part of the install is going to be the wiring. So there's 6 plugs and one that goes through the firewall into the module inside the cab. So the first step of removing the bumper is going to be removing the wheelhouse liner, and that has 6 8mm bolts, 2 8mm bolts in here, 3 clips, and 1 10mm bolt up front. So when we get under the bumper, there's 4 total bolts you need to remove. These 2 come out first for the tow hook, and then these 2 on this side, they're 2 18mm bolts. You can see one right here and one up top here. Those need to come out. So the two 24mm bolts, you'll either need to use a heavy duty impact or a big breaker bar to get them off. They're very tight. The 2 18mm bumper bolts, those are easy enough to get off with a 3/8 ratchet. So if you have fog lights, at this point you'll need to remove the fog light harness, which you do by sliding the red tab backwards towards you and pulling straight off. So not all Ram 2500s come with the front tow hooks. So if you do not have the front tow hooks, there's just going to be 3 18mm bolts instead of 2 and 2. At this time, once the 4 bolts are removed, the bumper is now loose on the passenger side. We're going to go ahead and repeat the steps on the driver's side. So the driver's side, very similar to the passenger side. We have these 2 24mm bolts right here that are holding the tow hook on. Those need to come off first. The next 2 are going to be the 18mm bumper bolts that hold the bumper bracket on. We also need to remove our fog light harness at this point. So go ahead and press in the tab and pull straight off. We'll just tuck that back for now. And the tow hook pulls out of the front of the bumper. And again, if you do not have the front tow hooks, you will have another 18mm bolt through this center hole right there. You will be able to remove the 18mm bumper bolts with a ratchet, and you will need to hold the 18mm nuts on the other side with an open-ended box wrench. To make our lives easy, we are going to use an impact here, which if you have one, I would also recommend to use. The top 18mm bolt will be a little tricky to get to with the full-size impact, so I'd recommend using a 1/2" ratchet. At this point, the bumper is free. I'd highly recommend having somebody help you remove the front bumper, as it is pretty heavy and can be awkward to do yourself. So we're going to slide the bumper forward. Try to tilt it. Just like that. So at this point, the bumper is on the ground. We're going to be removing these support brackets here. What we're trying to get to is some of these 8mm bolts back here to put the lower fascia on. So these are 14 millimeter bolts, and there are about 10 of them. You start here, you can go up this direction, and then these 3 here, and then there's 2 10 millimeter bolts on this side you need to remove, and 1 more 14 mil at the top. In addition to the bolts you take off here, there's 1 clip that we'll use our trim tool to remove. Removing that will give us access to all these 8 millimeter bolts right here, as well as these over here to replace the parking sensor shroud. We're gonna go ahead and do the same on the driver's side. All right, moving over to the driver's side, we're gonna go ahead and remove the same bolts here around the ridge here, and 2 10 millimeter bolts here, 1 clip here, and that will allow you to take the bumper support bracket off. So now that we have access to our fog light shrouds as well as our lower fascia, we're gonna start by taking these 8 millimeter screws off here. So keep in mind that these are just a whole unit here, so you can just loosen up each 8 millimeter bolt and take it out. It doesn't need to be completely removed. And once we have access to this, push that, push the top, and these are free. So now, from the front of the bumper, we'll go ahead and put our first driver's side shroud in. Go ahead and give this a push, and it will snap into place. So once this is in place, you'll go ahead, pop this in, and go ahead and replace all your 8 millimeter bolts. Since this is going into plastic, don't overly tighten these. So moving to the center lower bumper fascia, there are 18 8 millimeter slide bolts here. Just go ahead and start to loosen these up. After they're all loosened, we can go ahead and slide all of them out. So once all the 8 millimeter slide bolts have been removed, the bumper fascia is held in by a bunch of little clips. So just go ahead and manipulate, squeeze these together. And they'll start to break free. You may need to use a small trim tool. This one right on the edges can be a little tricky here. Go ahead and start to shift the bumper up. May need to take a screwdriver, kind of manipulate this a little bit. Eventually, it'll just pop out and you can see the clips that we were trying to remove here. So once we have the old one removed, we're gonna go ahead, lift the bumper up here, slide the new one in. We can go ahead and start to pull it through. You'll start to hear it snap into place. Once you see that all the clips in the surround are secured, you can start to put your slide bolts back into place. Once all 18 bolts are in place, we're going to go ahead and start to tighten them back up. I would tighten them by hand first, then go back with your wrench just to save a little bit of frustration. Last but not least, we're gonna work on the passenger side fog light bezel. So this will get replaced, same thing as the driver's side. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these 8mm bolts here. Again, just loosen them up. Start here, come on that side, push out. It's gonna be replaced with this. After that's in, we'll go ahead and replace our 8mm bolts here. Remember to hand tighten those up first, save yourself a little time. So at this point, after we've put all 3 shrouds on, we're gonna work on the wiring. So we're gonna unravel the wire. We're gonna start at the very opposite end of the plug. So the very opposite end, there's gonna be 2 pigtails. So we're working on 2, 4, 6 different sensors. We'll start at the passenger side. So this one is a little bit longer than this guy here. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. Go ahead and snap. Wait till you hear it click. We're gonna route this in front of these 2 bars right here. The remainder of the wiring is going to be routed along the frame and put through the firewall. At this point, after we're done with all the wiring, we're going to go ahead and put our 2 bumper support brackets back on. To make putting the bumper bracket a little bit easier, we're going to remove this support bracket right here. And to do that, there is 1 plastic clip underneath the bumper. So take your pry tool, pry the first piece out, pry the second piece out. Go ahead and remove that. When we're sliding the bumper bracket in, we need to get it under this piece right here. So we're gonna go ahead, reach behind this and unclip these guys right here. So we can slide the bumper bracket behind there. Go ahead and put this back in. Clip the plastic in. So now we're behind, the bumper bracket is behind this plastic and behind this plastic. It may get hung up on this here, but you can finagle it to line up. So after we've gotten the bumper support bracket back in, we're gonna start putting our bolts in. I'll start down here. I would go ahead and just start to get everything finger tight before we tighten it with a tool. These can be a little tricky to slide in. This one in particular down here is at a pretty awkward angle, but it is doable with your hands. I'm gonna go ahead and put this top clip in here. We're gonna come to the other side to put the support bracket in here. There's two parts to that. It goes in and then press in as hard as you can. We'll flip back to the other side. After that's done, we'll go ahead and put these two 10mm bolts into the support bracket here. Go ahead and tighten them down. So we're done with the passenger side. We're gonna move over to the driver's side to do the same exact thing. So to start on this side, we're gonna take this clip off here. So we can use just a little pick tool from underneath. Basically, this just squeezes together to come out. Get that loose. We'll go ahead and remove this like we did on the other side as well. At this point, we'll set our bumper support bracket into place. After we get the bumper support brackets on, you'll notice there's a couple little holes to where we can either zip tie or we can use the Christmas tree clips to go ahead and push through just to secure some of the wiring. So I did 3 on this side here. In the middle, this will just stay loose just for clearance purposes. And then on this side, we'll go ahead and do 3 as well. That'll keep our wiring nice and secure on the frame there. And we are ready to reinstall the bumper. So once we put the bumper back on, we're gonna get back underneath the truck and start to put the support bolts back in. So I'll go ahead and start with the top 18 millimeter bolt. Just go ahead and slide that through the top hole. And we'll hand tighten the 18 millimeter nut on the opposite side. We'll just leave that hand tight for now. Go ahead and slide the bottom bolt in. Tighten this also by hand. So at this point, I'm going to show you a small bumper adjustment. If you notice the bumper looked lower, more forward, more backward than before, you can actually lift the bumper, slide it forward, slide it backward. Just like that. I would recommend trying to line up this washer with where the outline was from before. So after we have that lined up, we're going to slide the tow hook in from the front. You'll be able to see right here where the tow hook gets bolted on from. On the opposite side, it doesn't use a standard bolt. It uses a flag nut. So we're gonna use these on the opposite side of how they came off. We're gonna slide the front tow hook bolt through. So after we have those 4 bolts hand tightened, we're going to move to the driver's side and do the same thing. So when we're talking about bumper realignment, we want to make sure this part stays in line with the fender. So the bumper can be moved forward, move back, move up and down. So just make sure this has a good smooth curve to it. You don't want the bumper tilted down or tilted up. So on the driver's side, we're going to do everything we just did on the passenger side, starting with this 18 millimeter bolt here. Put the bumper back on. Hold the 18 millimeter nut on the other side, and just go finger tight for now. Slide the tow hook in from the front. So after we're done with that, we're going to reconnect our fog lights right here. So once your bumper is in position, we're going to go ahead and tighten everything up. These two right here, the two 24 millimeter tow hook bolts, need to be tightened to 200 foot-pound of torque. The two bottom 18mm bolts need to be tightened to 75 foot-pounds. And now we're going to route our parking sensors to the cab. So up top here is where we're going to route the cable through our firewall. This is actually for a clutch plate, but it is not used on the 2500. So we're going to just feed this straight through. And depending on what options you put in your truck, we're going to have different size holes. So since we have 4 or 5 different things that need to go through the firewall, we've cut a pretty big hole, but you can cut a smaller hole and just use some Flex Seal or some silicone to make it weatherproof. And from the other side, we're going to go ahead and tighten the 15mm screws. We'll go ahead and pull this through, route it down this direction. And this is our parking sensor module. We're going to go ahead and plug it in the far right side and tuck the rest behind this carpet here. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and zip tie the parking sensor wiring loom to an existing wiring loom here. There's a couple different ways you can do it. This is our fog light add-on kit. So I'm just running straight up and into the firewall. So now that we've installed the front and rear parking sensors, we're going to have Doug install the bypass module and program the vehicle using the OBD Genie.
All right, guys, I'm going to show you how to run the OBD Genie programmer in the 2019 and up heavy-duty Ram truck. Now, in order to run the Genie programmer to enable the option that you're looking for, you also have to install temporarily a security gateway module bypass. Now, this is just installs temporarily just to allow you to program the vehicle's body control module for the specific feature you're looking to enable. Now, the security gateway module is located behind the speedometer, so I'm going to show you guys how to get to that. It's not as hard as it sounds. The whole process, including the programming and reassembling, takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So let's get started. You notice it gives you a little bit of room here. All we have to do now is pull on this little panel here, just enough to loosen it up a little bit. Now what we're gonna do is pull out the speedometer bezel here. So what you're gonna wanna do is on the lip of the bezel here, you can put your pry tool in or a regular screwdriver. You're just gonna wanna pry down on it to release the clips. Then just pull it out. You notice it just has retaining clips. There's no screws that hold that bezel in. So on the right side of your speedometer, you're gonna have the little part that you popped out earlier. You don't have to disconnect this, just kind of set it off to the side. Same thing on the other side, just pop that off. Set it off. Now you're gonna notice 2 7mm screws on this instrument or this steering column panel. So you're gonna go ahead and remove those 2 screws. I like to go ahead and put the column down a little bit, but basically you just pop this out. And then you'll notice 2 lower screws on the actual speedometer itself, and then 2 screws at the top. So go ahead and remove those 4. All right, now that all of our screws are out, we can simply just pull the cluster out, flip it upside down, and just temporarily disconnect it. Behind the speedometer cluster is where the security gateway module is located. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna disconnect those two connectors that are in the side of that module. These two connectors here will simply just plug into our bypass device. We can just set it back here. We can go ahead and install our cluster. We're just gonna set the cluster back in place. We're not gonna actually screw it in. We're just gonna set it back in place. Now at this particular point, now that the security gateway module bypass is installed, now we can run our OBD Genie programmer in the OBD2 port. All we have to do is put the vehicle in the run position, and then we can go ahead and plug it in. It takes about 30 seconds. You'll see a green light illuminate, and then once the green light comes on, you know you're all done. All right, what we're gonna do is go ahead and put the vehicle in the run position, and we'll go ahead and plug in our Genie programmer. You'll see a series of lights. As soon as you get the solid green light, you can go ahead and unplug it and won't be needed anymore. All right, we now have the solid green light, so we can go ahead and disconnect it. You'll also notice that your speedometer cluster and your infotainment system will reset as well. All right, guys, we went ahead and turned the truck off. Now all we have to do is just remove the bypass device, plug those two cables back into the security gateway module, and just reassemble everything. So as you can see, very easy to do. We've been in here for maybe 12 minutes. So what we're gonna do now is just kind of put it all back. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put this closeout panel in. You'll notice how it kind of has this lip here. You're gonna wanna stick that in and then pop it into place. The other side is the same way where the ignition switch is. All right, now when you install the speedometer bezel, you're gonna wanna clip in the bottom first and then slide the top back and it'll pop back into place.
All right, guys, so we just got done installing our front parking sensors on our Ram 2500. There's 6 sensors in total. Install was a little more difficult than usual just because you had to remove the front bumper, take all the bolts off, and put everything back together. So grab a couple friends, I would say 2, 3, 4 friends, pick a Saturday afternoon, order some pizzas, hang out, and you can do the install. It's still pretty straightforward, but overall a little more difficult than usual. You can check us out on Infotainment.com where we offer parking sensors, headlights, tail lights, all sorts of different upgrades for this Ram 2500 and all sorts of different vehicles. Thanks for watching.